Look what followed me home today. It's an Ampex 448. Now, I already have one of these, and honestly, when I got the one that I have, I thought, man, I'll never find another one. And lo and behold, 3 years later, I find this. So I couldn't say no to it, and I bought it. This video is going to be just about going over this and showing you and myself, because I just got it home, got it unloaded, and I really want to see what I bought. I love this stuff. By the way, in case you're not familiar with what this is, again, it's an Ampex. It's the 440 series, and I'm not sure exactly how long they made the 440s. They started building these 8 channels in 1969, and that's what this is. And the other one that I have, which is upstairs, it's a 1969 model. I think this one is literally one of the very, very early recorders to be built. And I'll tell you why I say that a little bit later. Let's see now. Okay, this is 8 channels, and it uses 1-inch tape. It rolls at 15 inches per second, and I think it'll also slow down to 15. I'm not really sure what this one runs at. Some of them would run at 30, but 15 inches per second is pretty much the going rate. This is the machine that Les Paul collaborated with Ampex on, and in 1969 this machine sold retail for $12,500. That's a lot of money in 1969. I mean, we're talking 3 Corvettes or 2.5 Cadillacs or half of a Rolls Royce. That's what this baby cost. But it was state of the art. I've heard stories about how the Beatles had one, and the big studios, they're the ones who really got into it. But anyway, I just want to go over this and video it so that I have some documentation as to what I've discovered and found about it. It does power on, and surprising. I mean, when I found this, I'll tell you, this was being used as a prop in a dinner playhouse. A dinner playhouse that does more. It's one of the biggest ones in America. So I just feel fortunate as can be that I was able to buy this. I mean, they used it. They just finished using it in a show, $1 Million Quartet, I believe, is what it was, and they used it in the recording studio scene. And I just happened to get to know the sound guy because he got a hold of me back during the spring, and he needed a pair of RCA 77DX microphones for the drummer in one of their scenes, and I just happened to have something that he could use, so I loaned them to him. And I don't know, he saw a video that I had made showing my other 44 8, and he said, hey, by the way, I've got one of those, and we're using it in the play right now, but when we finish up with it, if you'd be interested, I'd be happy to sell it to you. And I said, oh man, would I be interested? So anyway, all summer long I've been waiting, and today was the day I went and looked at it and said, I'll buy it. And I did. Anyway, so it functions. He said, well, I don't know anything about it. The only thing we ever used was the transport, and as you can see, that's the play function. Fast forward. Kick her into rewind. Those noises are normal for this type of machine. The edit function works. The edit function is this yellow button, and when you push it, it releases the brakes. So generally, when I'm going to hit the stop button, that'll engage the brakes again. Generally, when you're doing the edit function, you might have it in play, and then I'm going to stop it pretty quick because it'll really peel out some tape. You hit the edit function, the brakes come off, the feed roller keeps going, and it'll keep spooling tape. But we don't want to do any editing right now, so get that back up there. Now, I want to test the record function on this, and of course the playback, but before I do anything else, I want to shut it off, and I want to pull out the record card. What we have here is this is the reproduce card, this is the record card, and this is the amplifier, or the bias card. The reproduce is the card that's the electronics to produce the sound off of the tape while it's running. And the record card, puts the audio down on, I'm being pretty basic here, but puts the audio down onto the record head. And of course the bias card sets up the tape bias, has the oscillator in it too, so the erase head erases. So what I want to do before I go any further, I want to check each one of these record cards, because if you put the machine into the record function and this little tantalum, that one right there, that little tantalum capacitor, if it by chance was shorted out, it would destroy the correlating track on the record head. So if that's shorted and you hit record, track number 1, it's just going to burn that head like that. These heads are still available, but not cheap. So first thing I want to do is check these cards to make sure that they are all right. And I'm going to move the camera over so you can see. I'm just going to test one on camera, but I'm going to test all the other ones. It's a pretty simple process. Again, I'm going to be testing that tantalum. It ought to test, I don't know, between 10 and 12 microfarads. But what's most important is if it's shorted, that will know that. And it's real easy to do. I'm just going to the back side of the board, and we have this trace and that trace. So put the leads on there, and we are looking at, what did I say, 12, my hand's moving around a little bit, but 12.45, 12.43 microfarads. So that one is not shorted, so we're safe to put the machine in record function with this. So I'm going to test the other 7 just to make sure. Then I'm going to set back up. I'm going to put some audio into the machine and see what's what. I tested all of the record cards, the tantalum capacitors, everything tested out just fine. So, hey, that's good. We're going to power on. I need to hook up some audio. And, well, audio. Where's the audio plug? I'm going to keep that audio pretty low. Hopefully it won't pick up on my microphone. So that way YouTube doesn't do a copyright. You know, I should take the camera and show you the back side of this. The back side, what you have are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those are called the reproduce amplifiers. They're numbered, and if everything from the factory was in here, we would see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But we can see by looking at these numbers, that's out of sequence. 5 is where it ought to be. 4 should be up here. There should be a 7, which there isn't. And there should be a 6 and a 7. There are not. And 8 should be down here. So obviously, over the course of the lifetime of this machine, it's had some work done on it. But if you look at all the wiring, everything is really factory looking. These are the input and input transformers. Now, these particular plugs I've plugged in because this is some audio. These are my audio cables. I just have 8 audio inputs tagged down to 1. Where are you? It's hard looking at the camera and follow myself. So anyway, that's the audio coming in. These are the power supplies. There are 2 power supplies. Primarily run the electronics of the reproduce amplifiers. So each power supply will run 4 reproduce amplifiers. And also, you see this wire right here. One of these power supplies has an oscillator card in it to help with the erase head, but one of the power supplies won't have an oscillator card. So that's what this is, a jumper wire that brings that oscillator feed over to the other power supply, which goes up to the reproduce units. But man, it's amazing. This stuff is still factory. I'll show you something really interesting if I can pick it up on the camera. See that serial number right there? 105. You know, usually manufacturers, like, they'll start off at number 100 for their first item that they're manufacturing. And then the second item would be it'll start off 101, and then the second one will be 102. Now, I don't know how Ampex did their serial numbers. So, worst case scenario, this was the 105th 448 that they ever produced. And best case scenario, this was the 5th. And one thing that I can say about this one, which is different It's not on here yet. Once they got to going and building these machines, they added right here, and I'm going to walk upstairs and get a quick clip so you can see what I'm talking about. There is another spindle that goes in on there, and the tape actually feeds sort of like that on once on their production models. So I'm thinking honestly that this is really an early 448. So anyway, let me see. We flip these switches here to input, which brings us to the source. And we can pick up. Okay, not getting anything on channel 1, but my input might be a little flaky. Well, channel 2. Yeah, there we go, 1. So we'll wait till the music comes back. 2 is working. 3 is working. 4 is working. Golly, 5 is working. 6 is working. 7 is working. 8 is working. That's amazing. Now this little yellow light, this is the safe light. So if I hit the record function, no, I'm sorry, it's the ready light. Don't know my own machines. If I go to safe, those lights go off, and if I hit the record button and hit play, well, nothing happens. You can see records on the other ones, but just showing you that saves you from actually accidentally recording over your stuff. But we want to be ready. So, interesting. Well, I'm ready to see if we can record here. So, record press, play press, and can you believe it? All of the record indicators are working, or it shows working. We've got audio coming in. Now, the way to check to see if it's actually recording is we've got to move this lever to repro. And you see channel 1 drop down to nothing. So it's not recording onto track 1. Track 2. Oh, good for us. There you can see that is coming off of the tape. So the reproduce head is picking up what's being recorded on channel 3. Channel 2. Here's channel 3. Channel 4. Channel 5 is a little weak. Channel 6, nice and strong. Channel 7, nice and strong. Channel 8, nice and strong. Let me go up here on 6. It's pretty weak. Let me check my input on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes the input cable isn't making a good connection. But nah, it's It's there, but whoa, whoa. There we go. These cards, I mean, this thing has been sitting for years and not been used. Although it did get turned on, and the transport, they used that as a prop in the play. Look at that. Tapped on that reproduce card on channel 6, and we are in the deal. It's just channel 1 that isn't working. Okay. On this channel 1, let me see what this sounds like. Yeah, let me put this it's not sounding too good. Well, here's what I was messing with some of the switches and stuff, and I discovered over here on the bias card, down here on the bias adjustment, watch the VU as there we go. And the erase peak. And now let's listen to that track. How about that? So that's all that was wrong with it. It really wasn't the switch like I thought it was. It just needed a little bias adjustment. And now all 8 tracks are working. All right, then we have all of the channels recording, but I can tell you that it definitely needs, all the switching needs to be detoxed, needs some calibration on the bias cards, but those VU meters bouncing, that's the audio coming off of the tape. And this headphone will let you know it's sounding pretty decent. So, how about that? All right, well, I'm going to pull that reproduce card back out and put it back into number 3. Put number 1 back in there. Now what we did was, I was recording a bunch of the channels, so I'm going to just back up a little bit. Yeah. Shoo! And now we're playing, and I'll stick the headphone up so we can at least hear just a little bit. Groovy now, baby. So, as you can see, it actually sounds pretty. It sounds really good for having not been used for. Well, the guy that owned this bought this back in 1969. I don't know. He bought this in, what did he say? Late 80s. And used it in his studio for a while. But digital was coming on the scene. And he just, everybody goes to the latest and greatest. And there was a time these tape machines, I mean, you couldn't give them away. They were considered boat anchors. Today, that's not quite the case. Today, these are hard to come by, and when you do find one, they're pretty expensive. I'm going to flip this camera up just a little bit. I mean, they sell for as much today as they sold for when they were brand new. So if you can imagine that, imagine it. And you know, they're probably just going to get more expensive. And the deal is, the reason why they're expensive is because people want them. Not everybody wants them, but there are a lot of musicians who want to go back to tape. And there are certain machines that they are interested in using to try to recreate that sound from the 60s and the 70s. And this being one of those machines that are highly sought after, well, there you go. So anyway, my whole thing is I just enjoy a project. And again, I'm not a technician. I'm not a genius. I'm just an everyday guy. But I can do some things. And so this is my winter project. I'm going to go through this machine, get everything working just like I did the one upstairs. So she'll work like new, and what I do with it after that, I don't know. I have no problem in having a couple of these. I don't have a use for them, but I love looking at them and I love having them around. At a later date, I'm going to do a video. I'm probably going to use my machine upstairs, my 448. I'd like to demonstrate it, how it works, what it does. It's got a few interesting features. And you ask just about anybody, these Ampex machines, they had their own sound, and there's been a lot of music recorded on one of these machines. And that's not to discount Studer or Otari, MCI. I mean, Sony's built some fantastic machines, but Ampex is really known for the quality of the machine. Well, look at this. This is made in 1969, and it's still running and it's still working, and I haven't done anything to it. I mean, it needs calibration and it needs some it needs a little bit of work, but it's fantastic. So anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you would. Hit the like button and come back. See what I'll be talking about next time.